The whole problem with Palestine is it's a legacy of colonialism. We don't need more Western colonialism. We need more self-determination. Donald Trump couldn't find Gaza on a map if his life depended on it. You've interviewed the families of hostages. I've interviewed the families of hostages. They've said it consistently that we could have had a deal, but Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, they blocked it at every turn.
I want to hop into a Piers Morgan panel with Mehdi Hasan and a few others to speak about the genocide in Gaza now that we've reached the 2-year mark. If you can, take a moment, leave us a like on the video. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. That helps us out in the algorithm, and let's hop right in.
This deal's been on the table, a version of it, for over a year and a half now. Matthew Miller, the former Biden State Department spokesman who you know, he said that. You know, that even there, Netanyahu came along and added poison pills. The Israelis have added poison pills throughout. Hostages' families, you've interviewed the families of hostages. I've interviewed the families of hostages. They've said it consistently that we could have had a deal, but Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, they blocked it at every turn.
And it seems to me that one of the pivotal moments in changing the narrative here and speeding things up was the extraordinarily ill-advised attack on Doha by the Israelis when they were trying to take out the Hamas commanders.
This is why it's frustrating when these talks are had. The pressure and the framing is always being placed on Hamas, as if they're the ones who need to be drugged to the table. They're the terrorists, right? When, I mean, Hamas has their faults, right? Like, don't get me wrong, they have to be out of power after this, but they're obviously, in this situation, the more willing party to negotiate. Not only did they accept the Biden deal from a year ago that Mehdi mentioned, not only have they accepted numerous deals, not only have they agreed to the Arab peace initiatives that have been announced, but they also, in this deal, agreed to the hostage swap portion of the deal without hesitancy, stating further negotiation will be needed in terms of guaranteeing a Palestinian state for the rest of the plan. But it was Israel who came out and swiftly said, no deal, we will never allow a Palestinian state. So it seems one side is willing to play ball and one side wants to keep doing genocide for as long as it can and then end with all the chips on its side when it's forced to stop. You tell me which party seems like the good faith arbiter here.
The whole problem with Palestine is it's a legacy of colonialism. We don't need more Western colonialism. We need more self-determination. If you want to bring in local Arab countries, fine. Even that will be problematic. But really, it has to be led by people on the ground, not by outsiders. Donald Trump couldn't find Gaza on a map if his life depended on it. And Tony Blair, let me deal with Blair specifically. So obviously, you and I opposed the Iraq war. It was a disaster. He lied. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a war crime. Tony Blair should be heading to The Hague, not to Gaza. I wrote a piece for Zeteo laying out the case against Blair being involved in the future of Gaza. People can read it at Zeteo.com. I will just be very brief and say this. He has hundreds of thousands of Arabs' blood on his hands. The idea that you would go to Gaza, where Arabs are being killed for the last 2 years, and that Blair, of all people, has any credibility with the Palestinian people. I've not met a single Palestinian who views him as anything other than a war criminal.
I mean, what this is Trump is essentially teaming up with an Iraq war guy, like a guy who thoroughly supported the Iraq war with direct ties to it in action as well. He was the prime minister at the time, to now have him come to another territory in the same region in the Middle East in hopes he can solve the issue. It would be like asking Al-Qaeda to work on airport security measures, right? Like, it's insane. It's another leg of this sort of Western colonialism, this forced, rigid morality that is typical for America, and especially with this region that is very complex. It's layered. There's nuance here. This sort of rigid morality isn't going to work the same. I mean, especially when it leads to us supporting players in the region like Israel. I mean, again, don't get me wrong. Israel is a good strategic ally. We should have their back. There are reasons we should be on their side. But in signing off on the war crimes and genocide they're doing, we have to ask at what cost.
Well, of course, I welcome an end to the unrelenting slaughter and bloodletting for the past 2 years. There's been hundreds of October 7ths that have happened in Gaza. Of course, I welcome the cessation of massacres. The bare minimum demand for the last 2 years has been a ceasefire. So, of course, I welcome that. I think it's a big gamble by Hamas. I mean, this entire negotiations is basically putting Palestinians the barrel of a gun to their head and saying, subject, surrender, or die. First of all, no Palestinians were at the negotiating table. It was Gulf client states speaking on their behalf, Netanyahu and Kushner, who's personally invested in the settlement process. The whole gamble of releasing all the remaining hostages dead and alive within a 72-hour window is logistically insane. And of course, it's basically acting in good faith from the Israeli government, a pathologically lying, serial-killing state.
And it should be noted, since Trump called for Israel to stop bombing, since Hamas agreed to release the hostages and have more serious negotiations, Israel hasn't stopped. They've continued to keep bombing. Last I checked, this was yesterday, over 70 people were killed since they were supposed to stop, with Trump covering for them and posting as if they had been stopping. So who knows what that could be at as of like right now, as of when this video gets out. We have over 66,000 Palestinians dead, nearly 20,000, maybe over those 20,000 are children. A large portion outside of that are women and the elderly. The overwhelming majority of that are civilians. We have famine and disease rampant among the population. Over 80% of Gazan infrastructure destroyed. Hundreds of millions of dollars of cultural damage, sites and stuff that they can never get back. Their history literally wiped off the face of the earth. And it's honestly depressing that the last hope the Palestinians might have to get out of this is to put their trust in Trump and Israel, two groups who have never had their best interests in mind, and then just hope that what the international pressure or the international eyes on the situation forces them to keep their word. Free Palestine.